You know Army?
Do you know Army?
Do you know Army?
Do you know Army?
Hey guys, so we're about to talk about quite a mysterious topic.
Let's not jump right into it yet. I'm Sarah.
I'm Buana.
I'm Mimi.
I'm Zoe.
And again, we are WWATV coming at you this time in our podcast.
That was Buana. Moving on, our topic of today is just to say broadly, we are going to be talking about, quote, Big Hit's new girl group slated to debut in 2021. And the reason we're going to talk about this today is that me and Buana last night suddenly got into this conversation, and we wanted to loop in Mimi and Zoe and explain, first of all, what we clarified, which was confusing for us, and it was definitely going to be confusing for other ARMY, and just our thoughts about it. So last night, I don't remember exactly what even brought it on, but I think I came across something, and I said out loud to Buana, because she was the only one awake at the time, that I read an article that said, quote, Big Hit's new girl group is going to debut in 2021. And then Buana said,
I said, how is this going to happen when they have not even done global audition? Then Sarah was like, yes, they have. And I was like, when did that happen? Where was I? I don't remember global auditions.
Yes. And then I explicitly remembered it. And then we had to start going into it because it was
went back
really
and forth
confusing.
about it. The way she remembered it is that it was the source label. It was that label. So we were back and forth, and I remembered that not long ago in our chat, Sarah put a diagram in that clarified actually Big Hit label and the umbrella of it, and exactly what falls now under that umbrella. The umbrella of Big Hit label. You come down under that diagram, under the umbrella of that is Big Hit Entertainment. Mm-hmm. The two under Big Hit Entertainment is BTS and Text. Right. And then also under that umbrella is, under the umbrella of Big Hit label, is Source.
Yeah.
So things began to branch off under that. So when you say Source did a global search for auditions for a girl group, then in essence and Big Hit tweets something about, or put something out on their Facebook about our girl group will potentially debut in 2021. In essence, it is Source saying, or it is Big Hit. It's one and the same, because Source is actually under the umbrella of Big Hit label. So when she said that, I'm like, how are they going to do that? Because in my head, it's still our family that we call our family, which is BTS, Big Hit, and ARMY. But now we have to, and I was like, well, gosh, how do we define our family now? Because you're looking at that big, huge umbrella of Big Hit labels. And then we got into all of
the way that I described it was, especially remember kind of the visual of the diagram. And for those of you who are, of course, listening to this, basically it was, like Juana said, Big Hit at the top. But then we noticed there's a lot more under that umbrella than even just Big Hit Entertainment and Source. So then Juana brought up, like, the more the Big Hit expands, it's so hard now to define what is our family. Because we used to be, my analogy was, it's like taking this tight-knit family of, a few units, then suddenly pulling in your distant cousin from a different country who you didn't even know existed until today.
Yeah.
Pulling them in, and then, head of the household suddenly says, they're going to live with us now. You're pulling a bunch of other relatives you don't know, and then suddenly you're now, like, well, I don't know.
Really? What's your name again?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Who is this?
Yeah, what am I supposed to do with you?
That's a very good analogy.
Yeah.
And that's how we also feel, this may be a hot topic, but we even, because of that, started getting into how we feel about N-Hyphen. Because I didn't even know until we talked about it, N-Hyphen was under Big Hit label.
Or the umbrella of Big Hit
Yes,
label.
exactly.
Yeah. But they are a part of B-Lift. So that's another thing that's
which is also under the Big Hit label.
You're just like,
it's confusing now.
It's extremely It's a spider web.
Yeah, it's a spider web of
We do need a diagram.
Yeah.
We saw the new Big Hit Entertainment building yesterday. It's still under construction. And guys, when I tell you this building is ginormous, it's ginormous. Okay, so let me just give you a little history and just take you back just a little bit. Was it 3 years ago we went to South Korea?
It was 2017.
2017. And so we went to the original Big Hit building, which wasn't bigger than anything. I mean, it was very, very small. And what instantly struck us was the thousands of signatures on the stairs, on the wall, on the pavement, just well-wishers to our 7 guys.
Of armies.
Of armies. Just
from
thousands
around the world.
Literally from around the world. And it touched us. It really did. It these were all the army who came before us, and we even added our name in as well, just to kind of be a part of that history.
Yes, we graffitied the building also.
And so we then traveled to, at that time, their current building, because they had just moved.
Literally.
And
that month.
We got there, and it was a completely different feeling. So when we were at the first building, you could literally feel Army's presence and the love and the connection that they had to our boys. And then when we got to the second building, we were just standing there looking at it.
It was very generic. It's the only word I can think of.
And even when we stood there, we saw 2 other Army, and we approached them and we asked them if they were Army, and they said yes, and come to find out they were from Russia. They were from Russia. And so we talked to them in Army talk. And we were able to communicate, BTS style.
Because they didn't speak English and we didn't speak Russian.
Right.
But we all spoke BTS.
Yeah, we all spoke BTS. And even I felt like that building was a little daunting. And to look at the building they are going to, because then they moved again.
Yeah, they've moved since then.
And now the building that's under construction is at least 40, 50 floors. It's ginormous. I don't know.
Now, keep in mind, the original building was not Big Hit's building. They were
leasing it, but still.
But they had a floor in there. They had a floor. And then the building they moved
that's
to.
What they had.
But this building that they're going into
is their building.
It's their building.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're definitely becoming a conglomerate. And I don't know how you define a conglomerate as family, because it's no longer just Big Hit. It is a combination of several different entities all kind of rolled into one. I feel like we don't need to define that anything that's not directly Big Hit in relation to that pyramid that leads to BTS, then everything else is sort of irrelevant to us. I don't know if that's short-sighted thinking or not, but I just can't.
So when it comes down to the girl group, that is actually under Source label. How does everybody feel about that?
How do we define text?
Text is Big Hit label.
Yeah.
Text is Big Hit Entertainment.
Yeah.
Those are the 2. Text, BTS, and oh gosh, somebody give me the man's name. The solo artist that has been since the beginning.
I can't.
But you guys know who I am.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Right.
But
and guys, you can look that up. That's easy to find.
Aside from who they're under, looking at them as artists who are in relation to Big Hit, I would say that they're just in relation to Big Hit. If we come across something by them that we like, that's great. But they're not gonna. I don't see them becoming our focus as Army. We're not gonna hate on them or diss them or anything like that. But
not.
if something comes across our feed and it's them and we check it out and we like it, that's great. Like Miyaka said, how do we define text? If text comes up on our feed and we just happen to look at it, then yay, go juniors to BTS.
Yeah.
Good job for them. But they're not our main focus. So I don't think it's necessarily how do we define them, and I don't think it necessarily matters where they fall under the Big Hit umbrella.
So where we were touching on that conversation is that we got into an at-length conversation bouncing off of that about how we feel about where Big Hit is going over time because of things like that. I think one of the points that Juana touched on last night is that, when you're someone as influential as PD Neem, who has the most amazing ideas and really crafted the boys from the start, the bigger he is, and we definitely saw this with Island, the less he is he's able to put his hands in everything.
Directly.
Yeah, the less he's able to really oversee something properly and make sure that it's done correctly. Because I say Island, because Juana watched it, and she said that it was, this may also be a hot take, produced very badly. It was very obvious that they outsourced this, and the fact that
to us in a difficult way to understand.
Exactly. It was very obvious that they outsourced the production on it, and this is what I'm talking about. This is just one example of the bigger they are, how more diluted is the stuff coming from Big Hit going to be.
That's a good way to put it, diluted.
So we talked some time ago about the values, the core values of anything. The core values of us as a group, the core values of BTS, the core values of Big Hit. It all kind of goes down to those core values and work ethic. And if that core value and work ethic is not being produced across the board, then things happen. And this is what I mean by that. One of the reasons we love BTS and one of the reasons we love Big Hit is because we can actually defend them. They're not like others, yeah. They're not like others. They don't treat their artists like they're just an object. They don't misuse them. They don't put them in these contracts that lock them in and then give them, pebbles. They're not like that.
So like we have a standard that they have put us at. They have a standard that they've put themselves at. And
Correct.
we can recognize and support that.
And we
Correct.
can defend that.
And we can defend that. But I feel like when you are growing at the rate we see Big Hit growing, which is exponentially, where is he getting these people from?
That's true.
Where is he getting these people from that know the business the way that they need to know the business in order to be at the level that they're at? He can't be getting them from anywhere other than these other companies that have already pre-existed. And we know the type of culture that those other companies breed. And will they start to bring that into Big Hit was my thinking.
And then do you start producing stuff or products or individuals that
don't share the same core values,
and then producing things that we want to defend and can't.
That also makes me puts my mind into the thing that they have in America, the base that they have in America, and if we have our culture and our way of doing things in America, which might not necessarily hit the standards that we expect Big Hit to be at.
Correct.
So again, it's diluted. It's spaced out. It's away from PD Neem's main hands. So that kind of brings to mind that aspect of it too.
And go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Because he's not overseeing this stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he has a board of directors, but I'm sure he meets with the leaders of departments and he talks to these people about what's going on in their individual departments, and he I guess he gets an overview of this and that and this and that, and I don't know if he talks to them about the future. I'm sure he does, blah 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 blah. My point is he can't and is not in control of everything. And when you get this big, you're not supposed to be. You're not supposed to be. When you get this big, you're not supposed to have your hand in everything that's going on in your company. You're supposed to be trusting the people that you put in place to do the job that you expect them to do in the manner that you expect them to do.
That's some of the point of getting this big. Yeah.
But my point is, sometimes you can get too big. And it goes back to Zoe when she say it can get diluted. The core values of what's going on can get diluted. The vision that you originally had for these 7 boys living in one room eating the same bowl of ramen noodle can get diluted. Like it's
I get what you're saying and Sarah brought that up too last night. The way in which you cultivated them, or did you give that amount of time to the next? And will the next, like she brought up, is that going to be? So you did a worldwide search for this group of girls, and then you want to debut them as soon as next year.
Literally, that is what I brought up too. That they held these global auditions in 2019, and they want to debut them in 2021. Like, what I was saying about that is, I'm not trying to diss these girls and say that something like they're not good enough to debut in that amount of time. I'm not trying to say that at all. But I actually compared this a little bit to what they're doing with N-Hyphen and Island. How can you just take this young group and immediately just throw them straight into fame without them have even built up to it? Because what I said is different about our boys is they grew into the people that they are today that can handle the level of
Scrutiny.
responsibility, the level of scrutiny, the level of standard that they have to uphold today. If you had taken our boys 7 years ago when they were just starting out and put them straight into the spot that they have
Threw
today,
them to the wolves. So to speak.
exactly, they would be throwing them to the wolves.
Yeah.
That just isn't right, and it really concerns me to think. To realize that they're even doing this
Because
with this
they're
girl
falling
group.
into the same pattern they say they're different from.
Yeah,
Well-
and that is, how do you defend that?
Well,
Yeah, how do you
especially
defend that?
because it's not like it's some other label that's putting these guys out. It's under our label, and of course, not only Army's eyes are going to be on there, but because Army's eyes is on them, the world's eyes is on them.
Yeah.
So it's throwing them to wolves on plus wolves. It's like werewolves, you know. So it's one thing to just put them in a spotlight if you were from a different label that didn't have the world looking at them, but it's in the spotlight of the world immediately.
So you know how they do their annual or quarterly meetings with Army,
us, yeah.
and they kind of break down numbers.
The annual business, I think it's like a business
Business conference, and they kind of break down the numbers for us. Okay, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but I do remember P.D. Neen saying that there's a formula. There's a formula to put in this type of group together. I'm not sure what that formula is, or what that statement.
Did he say that there was a formula that he used, or there was a formula for creating groups?
Right. What
and
is the context?
He
There
changed it.
there is a formula, and he can make many more of. I don't want to say.
I remember that part in the conference, which is what I'm trying to clarify. I think because I remember he mentioned a formula, but I think because we know who he is, I think he said that there is a formula that you can make this, and that. I feel like, and of course, Army, correct us if we're wrong. I feel like he mentioned you don't have to follow it.
I sure hope that's the
why
direction
he's
he
been
went.
thinking out of the box. So it's like he created his own formula. That's what I feel like he said.
Or that there's a cookie cutter type of thinking
The
in the
impression-
industry,
there-
and that there is a different way in which to do it.
Yes.
Because for many years, so much so in the industry, idols themselves in that genre has been undervalued. Instead of looking at them the way they should have been looking at them for many years, they were not looking at the fact that this aspect of them needs to be valued in this way. This aspect of them needs to be valued in this way. This aspect, so forth and so on. Because how many people in the music industry, period, can do this, and also do this, and also do this, and also do this, and you're not looking at that value of these idols in that way. So until you actually start looking at the value of these idols in that way, you're gonna keep getting that cookie cutter type. And this is what I'm saying his actual formula was, and that's what he had been pushing and trying to get others to see for many years. And until they actually saw it that way, they were not going to be as successful as what he could churn out, which ended up being BTS.
Yeah, but it's only been BTS.
It's only been, and that's what she and I touched on last night as we were talking. And then I looked at her and I said, but are we actually looking at those days of being those days of them actually putting them, and I said them, actually putting in that type of effort with the group being gone days? Because I don't feel like they did it with text.
No,
they definitely are not doing it
It's
within
like they
hyphen.
started off
They didn't.
as a hybrid or a they started off as 2.0, and now they're reverting back to, or they're reverting to the cookie cutter mode.
Yeah, and that's not saying that text is not
Not at
talented,
all.
and that is
Oh my
not saying that
gosh.
these individuals of
Absolutely
hyphen are not
not.
talented,
Absolutely
and so on,
not.
or anybody under Source, or anybody coming up under B Lift. That is not saying that. That is what that is saying. However, put in that same amount of effort
Take
and
your
give
time.
them that
Because the
same
ultimate
amount of
goal,
chance.
because the ultimate goal is longevity.
Exactly.
Right.
The ultimate,
Exactly.
because the average K-pop group breaks up within 5 years. And what BTS broke that stereotype, and there's been others who broke it up, but the typical,
which is rare.
yeah, like we get you for 5 years, we're gonna suck as much money as we can, and then y'all disbanded,
Yeah.
see you later, go do something with your life, let's get the new group in.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that these boys are still together, and even though they thought about it, they realized the benefit in staying together, and they're connected and they're brothers. But yes, these boys text, I'm hoping, because this is year 2,
It's way longer than that.
Year 3?
No, it's not year 3.
For
No,
text?
I think going into year 2. It's not way
Going
longer
into?
than. Yeah.
I don't. When they were in their training days, which to me wasn't very long at all. It wasn't long at all.
And if it was longer than that, we were not privy to it.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, are you seriously going for longevity? There's either two things that you're looking for. You're looking for people who are greedy enough to do whatever it takes, no matter what it is, to get into this business or into these groups, and that is what drives them. But there's no camaraderie. There's no camaraderie.
You need a combination of several things.
Or you are getting people who don't know any better and really want this because it's their passion. If you're getting those type of people, then that is a recipe for longevity, but it has to be cultivated. Just like you took the time to teach the boys how to communicate, how to work out their issues, how to deal with conflict and how to resolve those conflicts. Was that really given to Tex? Or was that responsibility put up on BTS to kind of guide them? I'm not sure, but all the things that I've seen and all the interactions that I've seen between BTS and Tex, especially in the beginning, BTS was gone. They were busy. They were doing this and they were doing that, and they would have very little time to spend with Tex.
Yeah, it's been surface. It's been mostly surface.
It's been extremely surface, but the boys have been extremely supportive. They have let the world know that they completely support their younger brothers and their junior
Very
group,
supportive.
and they are extremely supportive, but from afar.
Yes.
So if BTS is not really cultivating them and Big Hit is not cultivating them,
who is?
Who is?
Who is?
And I had the same point when I was talking about being concerned about this girl group. And I'm coming at this from a perspective of being a big blackjack back in the day. You know, it's not like I'm holding girl groups to a different standard, but it's because I love 2NE1 so much that I really, really want, future girl groups to succeed as much and to really be, really be it, really be what we want to see in the industry for girl groups. I want to see a girl group that is taken care of as well as BTS was / is, and succeed as well as they are.
And I want to see a girl group that's not talking about their hair or their clothes or bubble gum,
or every day is about boys.
And that's why when you said coming from Big Hit, I was like, no, they're not. And then when we got to the nitty gritty of it, and we see that it's coming from under the umbrella. For me, it's still unfulfilling because what I want is a group coming from Papa. Right. I want a group coming from what we've been waiting for years.
Right.
This is what me and Mimi have talked about for years. This is what we have been wanting for years. So when I'm told that we're going to have a global search for the next girl group, and it's going to be global, it's not good, because another thing that me and Mimi have talked about for years is every time we get the notification for auditions, it's always, oh, what are the auditions for? Not that we're going to audition, but what are the auditions for?
Right.
And it's always, if you are a male, if you are a male, if you are a male, if you are a male. And it was never, it was always if you are a male. And it's not for a girl group. It's not for a girl group. It's not for a girl group. And then it wasn't global. So when it was finally for, I did see for the global, and it was for female, but it never dawned on me it was for Big Hit, or it was for. So I'm still waiting for it. Yes, it's under Source, and we figured out last night it was under the Big Hit label. But for me, it's still unfulfilling because this is not from PD Mean. This is not. I want you to do for a girl group what you have done for our guys, because I know it's going to be done right. Yeah. I know it. I want you to give to them exactly what you gave to our guys, and that's what I'm still. That's great that it's coming from under Source, and I'm going to be supporting. But it's still unfulfilling because you're not doing for a girl group, a global girl group. And the talent is out there.
Oh yes,
it is so out there. But if you take the formula that you told us about and you give it to a global girl group, invest it in a global girl group, and I guarantee you're going to end up with the same thing that you have given us with our guys. And that's what we've been waiting on for years. Yeah. And this is not it. So that's what I meant by last night when I looked at you and I was like, no, it's not.
I think what I was upset about is the fact that I understand the Big Hit Entertainment is just another piece of Big Hit label as a whole, but I think it went into, and this obviously touches on a lot of things, I think I was partially upset because Source Music is also under Big Hit label. I I'm sure everybody feels this way. In an ideal world, I would love for all of the labels that are all of the entertainment pieces under Big Hit label to be operating at the same standard that we expect Big Hit to.
Across the board.
That's what I was hoping for, and that's why.
That's exactly what we mean saying. I do believe it needs to be the same standard, which would be a magic trick in itself.
So let me clarify standard, because I feel that BTS has worked their ass off and they have earned the level of which they are at.
Right.
Okay, so Tex hasn't yet, and neither has anybody else that's new or coming in, like Hyphen. So that's a level of standard they have to earn, right?
Right.
But I think what I was talking about in regards to standard was, what effort are you putting into them for longevity? Like what? And it's very interesting because Tex is very poppy. They're very, very K-pop-ish, and I don't know if that was an arena he was trying to hit. Oh, we can produce this. Originally, it was like a hip hop group of BTS, and now let's create this K-pop group.
Yeah.
And then let's create another K-pop group. I don't know. I just feel
you're
like
talking about the inverse operations of it, right? The standard of because but you're talking about the
I was talking about the standard of
operation.
I was talking about the standard of cultivation.
Yeah, is that not the same thing? Standard of operation.
Yeah, just how much attention that they're spending on them.
Yeah.
Because again, touching back so that I can pull back to before, what I was concerned about is giving literally 2 years from audition to debut for these girls. Yeah. How is that giving them that level of cultivation? How is that giving them time to grow? And how is that giving them time to prepare? Like, it feels to me like they are pulling people in, from everyday life, throwing some clothes on them, teaching them a dance routine, and then, like Zoe said, throwing them to the wolves. Like, I'm making basically the same point in a different way that, no, I'm upset partially because Source Music is under Big Hit label, but I'm also just speaking for the industry in general. Now that Big Hit has entered, quote, the Big Three arena, I don't want them to be like the Big Three. Yeah. Just because they are at this level, I strongly feel like they shouldn't do things like the other three.
So that kind of goes back to us being worried how diluted is the stream of
right, and seeing something like this, seeing something
you want them to meet that standard of what Big Hit agency back up in the cut in that back alley in that building had. Reach that standard, meet that standard.
Right.
So it seems like what Marco said, the bigger that they're getting, the more vast they are, the less attention to detail PD Neem is able to give each and every aspect of it. Because we know PD Neem is a genius in his own right. And he has that sight and that skill and that expertise that he developed for himself. But the more vast they get, the bigger they are, the less attention to detail he himself is able to put his hands on, and the more diluted the outcome is of the standard that we want in every which way. So, yeah.
It's a very classic, our journey for the boys is a very classic rags to riches type thing, right? I mean, they literally went from the bottom of the barrel to owning all of them. Like, it's a very classic rags to riches story. And I'm not speaking in regards of the boys at all. We are really just kind of focusing in on Big Hit. I wonder if... I'm trying to word this in a way that doesn't make it seem like where Big Hit is now is not where they are not supposed to be, because it is. They've worked... I mean, he's been very strategic and very smart when it comes to money.
Absolutely.
Obviously.
We are not saying any of us to try and drag him or anything like that. We are literally just having discussion. We're only so passionate about it because we care about Big Hit.
We care about Big Hit. We have to. But no means are they perfect either.
Yeah.
So we are not blindly following anybody. We know that Big Hit has some issues, and that hopefully they are working on in regards to our boys and other things. Mm-hmm. But the fact of the matter is, it's very symbiotic. This relationship between ARMY and BTS and Big Hit is very symbiotic. You rely on us to do our job so you can do your job. And then we rely on you to do your job so we can do our job. It's very symbiotic. But the moment that you stop doing what you're supposed to be doing in the manner in which you're supposed to be doing it, then it kind of puts us...
Whole ecosystem.
Yeah, it affects the whole ecosystem of what we got going. Because we know that human beings are human beings and they should be treated as such.
Yeah.
And what I mentioned, sorry, go ahead.
Well, there you go, Miaka. Army, we as Army are doing what we're supposed to do. When one screw is starting to loosen up, it's our job to look over and say, hey, what's going on? You know, you're usually doing this, and that. Why aren't you doing this, and that? And how can we help? Let us do our job. Help you, help us. So we are doing what Army is supposed to be doing. We're inquiring. We're trying to figure it out, trying to understand. And if we need to help guide some aspects of this, then as Army, we will help guide.
Or if the screw becomes a nut and a bolt, and we're supposed to be adapting to that, and we didn't know we were, you got to give us some different directions, because we need to be conforming in a different way, and we just didn't know that. I want to backtrack just a touch, and it's not a big clarification, but it is a clarification that I want to make. We're not trying to shine a bad light on the words that you use, but we're not trying to say that they just took individuals off the street and threw some clothes on them and threw them out on the stage.
Right,
because
right.
these individuals that I did watch on Island, I don't know why Island came into my head, but Island, they were some very hardworking, talented young passionate young guys that were on there.
Right, exactly.
And they struggled, and some of them were even ones that went up to be a part of Text. They were ones that did not make it, and being, trying to be a contestant, trying to be a part of Text. So I mean, a lot of talented individuals, but still individuals that need a lot of
they need cultivation.
A lot of cultivation.
And they deserve that cultivation.
And they do.
Because
if
you're looking for looking for longevity.
Yes.
If you're looking for the 5 and done, then this is exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah. This is exactly how you're supposed to be treating them.
Yeah, and putting them out there.
Hurry up, get in so you can hurry up and get out.
But that is not the agency and not the standard that we're accustomed to associating with Big Hit. Big Hit label, Big Hit entertainment, Big Hit nothing. That is not what we are used to seeing.
That's not on brand, Big Hit.
That's not our family.
Not on brand for what we've been learning for the past
because
years.
what sets us apart from everybody else is the fact that we are different, not the fact that we are the same.
And let's not be like the other three.
Yeah.
And so that is
at least not in that way. Let's not be like the other three.
So to tie this up and put a bow on it, that is actually what we are trying to say. It started off with talking about, hold on, wait a minute, who's supposed to be putting out an all-girl group now?
Yeah.
And is it us? And is it our family? Is it well, it's Source, but is that a part of our family? And so to tie this up in a big, pretty bow, that's pretty much what it is. What are we starting what is our family starting to put out? What are they starting to put out? Is it headed towards the groups that are longevity, or is it starting to churn out the cookie cutter type of stuff that we are not?
Only time will tell, but I wasn't happy to hear that they're only giving this girl group 2 years before they're debuting. And I hope that this isn't the direction that we're going to continue heading in. Not just for Big Hit, but for all the pieces under the Big Hit label. Big Hit, we respect them so much because they've set a new standard in the industry.
Absolutely.
And I want everybody coming up to adhere to that standard. Like, let's do better, guys.
Oh, and on top of that, when everyone begins to say so-and-so is only on top because they're under BTS. So-and-so is only on top because they're under BTS label.
I don't want that either.
That's exactly. How do you defend that? How do you defend that? You're not going to be able to defend that because some of it is going to be absolutely true because you put them out there before it was time.
Right.
So how do you explain their hotness? How do you explain them being on top? Because you did not take the time to cultivate them.
Right.
How do you defend that?
That goes back to the point I made about when they're thrown to the wolves. It's because it's under Big Hit and because it's next to BTS. They automatically have the eyes of ARMY and they automatically have the eyes of the world because they have the eyes of ARMY. So yes, that will be what will happen if we continue down this path of people saying, "Oh, it's just because of BTS." And it's just because.
And you're going to have some people who are listening to this podcast who are going to be thinking that's not a bad thing. That is absolutely not a bad thing. And here's why we're saying it is because we call them Text, but we know it's TXT. They have said several times they do not want to be compared to BTS because they're not.
They said that before debut.
Exactly. And B, they genuinely want their own fans. Thank you for ARMY, but we don't want. They genuinely want their own fans, and so that's why that's why we're saying the things that we're saying.
So with
when
that,
you don't give a group time to cultivate and actually time to create a fandom, or at least create a base by doing the things that BTS did before they blew up, and you know how they would just kind of talk to us and send us letters and do these little vlogs that they've kind of gone back to in 2020, and just those little things, like how are you
And these guys are genuinely talented.
They
in their
are.
own right. I mean, I watched them before they debuted, and they are, to each and every one of them, they are genuinely talented. And their fandom realizes that. They do. They're true fans that watch them before they debut. They realize that. So getting that hype, and not just text, not just TXT, in hyphen, or anybody else that comes down the line. We are talking about all of this because for anybody else that comes down the line and what we see beginning to happen, we do not want to see happen, which is why we're talking about this now. But they're genuinely talented in their own right.
Absolutely.
So they deserve, and anybody that comes, the girl group that comes, they deserve more than what we think is about to begin happening. Or is
I just
happening.
know that the K-pop group originated in South Korea. It is something that originated in South Korea, and it has very deep roots in how they handle situations, and none of it has been very good. But it is just a deep-rooted behavior that they've just grown accustomed to, and then those artists have just grown to accept. And I think BTS was the first group to really show them. Any ARMY, if you've seen BTS among other idols, you will see a stark difference in behavior. You will see a stark difference in behavior, and we just chalk it up to our boys are just silly, our boys are crazy, our boys are just this, our boys are just that, but
our boys are happy.
There's a difference in the way that they act and every other idol on that stage, because they were cultivated and the other idols weren't. They were cultivated and the other idols weren't. That's why the other idols just stand there lifeless or proper or however else they were told
and by
to
cultivated,
stand.
we also mean like being genuinely taken care of properly.
Taking
care
as a human being.
Being treated like a human being and not a source of revenue,
so
not
really,
an object.
What we want by saying all of this is not just a personal thing that we're talking about for ARMY. It's not just a thing that we're talking about for Big Hit, or it's not just a matter of this fact, that fact, this fact. We genuinely, because of who we are, we genuinely want those who come from Big Hit label to be able to enjoy what they're doing, shine the way that they are meant to shine individually and as a group, and genuinely be able to be who they are in public, which is their right, rather than have to be chained and controlled in a certain way that makes them unhappy and unhealthy. So this is us saying all this so passionately and so intensely because we genuinely want these individuals to shine in their own right while being happy. So that is why the conversation is important to have. And ARMY who are listening to this, please feel free to speak your piece on this. Message us however you want. Even if you disagree, tell us why. Respectfully explain your thoughts and your ideas on this, because as a family, as a whole ARMY, we should discuss this and then bring it to the surface. And like I said, do it respectfully, because we definitely want to hear you guys.
And we want that type of culture to continue.
Absolutely.
That's why we
want to encourage
have
the positive culture that Big Hit has.
Yeah,
brought
that culture to
and we
continue.
want them to keep it going too.
So as much love as we, and as much enjoyment and as much of all the good things that we've gotten out of this genre of music, we want the artists to get just as much back. And, you know, the connection that BTS and ARMY has, we know that that's reciprocated. And so if we could be just a very small, tiny voice that goes out into the world for change, not only for the other companies who treat their artists that way, but for anybody who thinks that that's okay. So it's not just us focusing on Big Hit, but us really wanting a culture change, period.
And this culture to continue, just like like our guys have experiences and Army has experiences. We want Tex to continue to have this and to continue to have it for a long time to come. We would like for Hyphen to have this and to continue to have, and what the girl group. God, I want the girl group coming up under the Big Hit label to have this, their fandom to have this, and to have longevity. One thing that Sarah mentioned last night in our conversation, and she has mentioned before, and I think mentioned today, was that there's a difference between idols looking at one another within their group as co-workers and looking at one another as brothers or
and
sisters.
Yeah.
And there is our guys look at one another as brothers. They've said it more than once.
Yeah.
We call ourselves family.
Yeah.
When other individuals, you can tell when they're looking at one another's like co-workers. We don't have to call no names, but you can tell, and we want that for Tex. We want that for NIV. We want that for any group that's coming under the Big Hit label, that big umbrella. We want that culture to continue, which is why we're having this discussion and being very candid about it. So, yeah,
I think our next discussion should be about body image, because I'm loving the body image I'm seeing from Namjoon.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah, so we're gonna end this here.
Yeah.
Before we are up all night talking about Daddy June. Yeah, let's end this.
But yeah, thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
I look forward to hearing from you
as
guys.
we're signing out.
Now you know Army.